Welcome to the Wellness Transformation Journey podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Peters. After you determine why you want to lose weight and you set your wellness goals, there's still no guarantee for success, unless we develop some long-term success strategies. This allows us to stay on track when we reach our goals or are struggling to reach our goals. Once we reach our goals, we can get off track and go back to what we were doing before, which has been common in my own experience. However, creating long-term success strategies that are continually adjusted has helped me maintain my weight. This has also helped me work on my overall wellness, both physical and mental, which is important in reaching and maintaining your wellness and weight loss goals. While there are several areas to focus on when strategizing for long-term success, the first step is to understand your identity, who you are and who you want to become. Then you need to determine how weight loss and your overall wellness will define and support your identity. The first step is to understand our identity and how our habits reflect who we are. Our habits and what we think of ourselves reflect the type of person we believe ourselves to be. Often, when we are struggling with our weight and overall wellness, what we think about ourselves is based on what we see in the mirror or what we hear from other people. This makes changing our mindset about who we are or how we see ourselves extremely difficult. In turn, it makes changing our behaviors that contradict this identity difficult to sustain. This was extremely difficult for me, like it is for a lot of people. I struggled for most of my life with positive self-identity because people around me regularly reminded me that I was overweight. There were never any offers to help. I was just put down and told that I needed to lose weight. I would have people mock me about needing to walk more, but they were never supportive, although they believed that making fun of me was being supportive. I was often ridiculed when I was younger because my calves would hurt when I tried to walk any distance or run a lot. When I was in my 20s, I had a health scare and learned that I had probably been struggling with low potassium my whole life. The response from the people who mocked me for not exercising enough or not being able to walk far enough was to tell me they didn't know, but it was my fault for the issue. There was no support or compassion. After learning about my potassium deficiency, I changed some of my eating habits to make my potassium levels better. This allowed me to walk more, and I took up hiking. The problem was that I had a bad relationship with food. I was still mocked for my size, and sometimes put down more because some of those same people were bothered that they struggled to keep up with me physically, but I was still overweight. All this caused me to struggle with my self-identity. So the first thing I had to overcome was myself and my habits and listening to the people who made fun of me. Our behaviors that we have developed over a lifetime often align with our identities, and thus they feel natural. They also require less willpower to sustain. Therefore, it takes a lot of work and willpower to change those habits to reach the identity we see ourselves achieving. Taking small steps and changing our actions slowly is a vote of confidence for the type of person you hope to become. This requires focusing on overall wellness, mental and physical. In previous episodes, I've talked about setting goals beyond noticing your weight and size. Similarly, for long-term success, we need to understand the differences between outcome-based and identity-based goals. Understanding these will help you develop long-term success strategies. Outcome-based goals focus on specific results like weight and pant size. Identity-based goals focus on the person you are becoming. They are important because they help establish lasting results because they change the system, not just the outcomes. They establish a mindset built through small continuous changes over time. Therefore, setting a goal to lose 50 pounds is important, but it does not lend itself to establishing sustainable change. Setting an identity-based goal of becoming a person who prioritizes health and exercise puts the focus on maintaining a lifestyle beyond weight loss. Now you need to start thinking about who you are becoming and how you will establish a lifetime of success. Go through this exercise to focus on your mental and physical lifetime wellness. Something I learned after many years of up and down success and failures is that mental and physical health supports one another. It's all about finding a balance. The first step is to envision your ideal self. Think about what kind of relationship the person you are becoming will have with food, exercise, and self-care. How does the person you are becoming feel when they look in the mirror or are in public? How does the person you are becoming talk about themselves? For this exercise, I had to dig really deep into understanding how the way I talk to myself about myself impacted my relationship in other parts of my life. I had to realize that the way I talked to myself impacted my perception of myself. I also had to realize how the way I talked to myself was the way I thought about myself because of what others said to me and about me. I had to change my thinking about myself and stop listening to negative comments from others. This required, in some cases, breaking those relationships to do what was best for me. After this, I took note of other unhealthy relationships I had, especially with food and exercise. For instance, when I'm bored or depressed, I tend to eat without thinking, or I think about food all the time, which makes me hungry. When I'm overly stressed, I tend to binge eat and don't exercise. I had to recognize where I personally struggled and not focus on what others thought. I had to remind myself that this was about me, not anyone else. Next, you need to examine who your heroes are from an example of a health and wellness position. What we tend to not realize is that our habits tend to grow out of years of things we learn in our families and in our communities. Think about individuals around you who have established healthy habits and who you could find pieces to emulate for yourself. Ask yourself, who do you admire for their approach to health? What qualities do they embody physically, mentally, and as a human being? When we do things like this, we tend to immediately go to celebrities and major athletes. But do we really know these people? Also, do their lifestyles really fit into something that we can emulate? For some of us, maybe. Sometimes we want to look at fitness trendsetters on social media as another outlet. And although I watch some of them, I did not use them. While none of these are wrong, if we don't have a relationship with these people, it might be kind of hard to know who they really are. We only know what we see on camera. I chose to look at people that I had a close relationship with and whose healthy habits I was familiar with. This also gave me an outlet for extra help. I could go to these people to personally learn from them. Some had achieved goals I was hoping to achieve, like marathon running, establishing regular meditative practices, and having a good work-life balance. After you figure out who some of these people are, consider your best moments in life. These are moments that made you feel good and proud of yourself. Think about how these moments made you feel. When did you feel most aligned with healthy living? What identity were you embodying? This is the point where I really started to recognize that depression, self-identity, and my weight were very much aligned. I found that I felt best when I was able to maintain my exercise routines, eat well, and focus on my mental health during previous weight loss journeys. When I failed, it was when I got frustrated, felt overwhelmed, and wasn't paying attention to my mental health. At these points, I would let my fears, frustrations, and self-doubt take over. I would often quit exercising, or I would overeat to fill space. I began to understand what happened to me to get me off track. I started to recognize the patterns in my mental and physical health. During this exercise, I also recognized that I felt best when I was praised for physical accomplishments, such as when I was a power lifter or played other sports. I recognized that at these times I felt accomplished and I could push forward. I would work harder to reach my goals, but then I would be put down or I would hit a roadblock that shifted my thinking. Another issue I found was that when I was on top, I didn't shift my eating habits. I actually used it to celebrate and didn't control myself. I realized I could control my exercise, eating, and who I listened to. This exercise started to help me understand who I was and how to shift to become who I wanted to be. In the last part of this exercise, you need to take a closer look at your identity core values. Ask yourself, what principles matter most to me? How does health support these values? Think back to when you set your SMART goals and your purpose for weight loss. This will help you answer these two questions. For me, it was a matter of being there for my family, setting an example for my nieces, nephews, and students, and inspiring others who are struggling with similar experiences that I've had and continue to have. I was then able to evaluate how my health supported my values. Understanding who you are and who you want to be requires a lot of deep evaluation of yourself. It takes a lot of work. Deep evaluation takes time and can feel frustrating, but it is worth the effort. When you understand who you are, you can begin to transition to who you want to be. We'll go deeper into this in the next episode.